Hey, what's up guys? This is Brian at Whisper Status 74. Welcome to the community, welcome to the channel. If this is the first time you are seeing me, please consider liking and subscribing. We are real tech for real people. Today's video is a tech therapy video. These are long form, non-scripted discussions of any given topic. Today's topic is gaming. Hardcore gamers versus casual gamers and where they fit in the AV community. And it is actually a much more difficult question to answer than you may think.
I've seen things people wouldn't believe.
Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, whenever you are watching this. I request as much audience participation in this video as possible, as it is a very interesting question that I have my thoughts on, and I would love to know your thoughts on this topic of gaming. Hardcore gamers versus casual gamers. And why do I ask this question, and where do they fit in the AV community is a very interesting question. AV community, home theater has always been a separate thing from the gaming community, with some of us in the middle. The challenge is that those of us in the middle have come from both sides of audio, visual, home theater, and gaming, depending on your age and your history and experience. We're going to cover all of that. We'll also talk about the manufacturers, Samsung, Sony, LG, TCL, Hisense, Vizio, even the monitors. Where do they fall in? Who do they cater to? And should they all be catering to gamers in some way, shape, or form? So the reason why I asked this question, or even talk about this topic, as being somebody who's on this platform that specializes in TV technology, all audio, video, but primarily TV technology, panel technology, with gaming in mind, as well as movies, etc. Every day, every comment, everything that I answer in most of our videos and live streams, this topic of use case or usage comes up. What are you using your TV for? Where is it going to be in your room? So on and so forth. But the primarily asked question is use case. Are you gaming? Are you not? It used to be more, even a few years ago, sports, streaming, things of that nature. Sports and gaming, due to the fast moving, the way the picture moves, again, motion, the image quality, they were lumped in with gaming. To me, gaming should be completely separate. Now, again, the reason I bring this topic up is in all of my discussions. Now, it separates a lot of us on this platform, even in the last few years. For me personally, I don't do many full reviews. You do a full review, you cover all the topics, the body, the performance, the connectivity, the tech specs. Gaming is always at the end, right before the conclusion, and then the video is done, never to be revisited by the artist or professional website. What we do differently, me and many of the people that I collaborate on this platform, you know, many of us, we discuss these TVs for years. We discuss them in depth. We discuss and share our information as enthusiasts and what our findings are, how we're using it, concerns, and those change daily. So for me to do a review that is by itself, I do more of a thorough conversation as the year goes on, or years. Still talking about panels from a few years ago as we recommend them, sometimes more than new panels. Gaming always comes up, and it's not always a priority. Now, many years ago, input lag wasn't even measured. A lot of these TVs didn't even have game modes. That obviously has changed, but some companies take gaming or make gaming a priority over others, and that has definitely shown up in their market share and dominance, especially since those of us that are on this platform do recommend them more as we ask that question about use case. Now, what we've done that I feel is perhaps incorrect is ask what type of gamer you are. Are you casual or are you hardcore? So we assume that the hardcore gamer games more often, games more seriously, and also favors picture quality. And that's where I think I have made the mistake of asking that question. I am a hardcore gamer. in my passion for it. I don't have a lot of time to game, even as a content creator or not one, but I prefer picture quality over all else. Now, performance to me is obviously very important. We've talked many years over the PC gamers being separate from console gamers, but the gamer has evolved. And it sounds ridiculous to say that they've evolved or they've become more advanced, as PC gamers have built their own rigs for many, many years. They're obviously brilliant people, obviously know a lot about their craft. But sometimes when it would get to the monitor, liquid cooled, GPU, CPU, RAM, SLI, crossfire, whatever you wanted to do, when it came to the monitor, it would typically be a smaller IPS monitor, very clean, not really expensive, but the performance, latency, input lag, instantaneous. At the smaller size, 1080p, the pixel density would yield a cleaner image than a larger 4K panel. Now, many of us on the console side, which I am on both sides, but I PC gamed in 2016 on a display. Now, at that time, there wasn't a lot of people doing that. Gaming on a TV with a PC, especially with a gamepad of any kind, was whoa, completely separate camps. Consoles could never even approach gaming performance. They did initially out of the gate, and then within a few months, they fell off. The point is, they were completely separate. PC group, performance, quickness, accuracy. And again, their monitors, though didn't have the contrast ratio of our displays or our TVs, were so quick and so clean, you barely gave it a second thought. On the TV side, a lot of console gaming was used to being 30 FPS and added motion blur or VSync to every game. And it was, other than, say, Call of Duty, over the years, everything was 30 FPS, not 60. 60 with COD, quicker, but image quality really suffered. As time has gone on, forget about the Xbox One and the PS4, and this next generation of the Series X and the PS5, where HDMI 2.1, variable refresh rate, low frame rate compensation have all been added. They are now closer than ever. The PC crew is now gaming more on their TVs as well, as these games, or as these panels do have low latency. They do have FreeSync, G-Sync, variable refresh rate, low latency, ultra wide. So now, as you see, as that PC group, which is also me, as they've gotten older, they're owning homes, they maybe don't have as much time, they can't game on a monitor, or they're gaming on smaller displays as high-end panels are getting smaller. So what I'm trying to say in this video is that we are all getting to be almost one group. And what I realized for me, the casual gamer, this is my opinion only, as much as I'm hardcore, I game, I want to game, I think about it constantly, I would really struggle in life without it. Multiplayer games for me are a way for me to continue my athletic career, continue the camaraderie. I've made friendships all over the world that have sustained me over these past few years, through marriage, through children. So it is more than just a hobby. Gaming was always tacked on socially as, oh, you game? Oh, you don't look like a gamer. Really? You game at this age? It was kind of a, no, nonsense. It's always been for everyone. I gamed on the Atari 2600. I am 47 years old. I've had every console imaginable. Atari, Intellivision, ColecoVision, Super Nintendo, Nintendo, Genesis, Sega Master System, TurboGrafx, Dreamcast, most of those at launch. Atari, Nintendo, whatever you want to talk about, I've had them all. Then built a PC. I still found in 2015, 2016, the PC side was very separate. There was different, how can I say this, in terms of console games didn't translate well, or I should say PC games didn't translate well to console. They were very much downgraded. Now you see a catering to the console market, and PC is still there, but we are together. Now, what we need here is more attention paid from the manufacturer. Now, for me, you've seen over the last few years, Samsung and LG take the lead in this regard. Samsung developed the Game Optimizer when it was on their LED lineup. This is the first year this year with the QD OLED that they have both the strength of OLED and their gaming, immediately making them the best gaming panels out there, as well as having quantum dot technology, as well as having their Game Optimizer they've had for a number of years. Also adopting that is LG. Now, the Gaming Optimizer is more than just giving you the FPS, giving you the ability to check your FPS, but also to, on the fly, disable variable refresh rate. To also, in my most use of it, is not just to see what you're in. For instance, if you're in VRR, the Game Optimizer will tell you. If your frames are at this level, or they're here, or they're there, Game Optimizer will tell you. You can quickly jump in and out of the settings. For me, most importantly, is you have 5 to 6 presets: sports, RPG, FPS, standard, and each of them look vastly different from the other. Gaming has always had a way of stripping their modes to obviously make them faster, stripping them down. If you've seen with Samsung and Sony, losing local dimming has been crushing for me as a consumer. As somebody who is a fan of both Samsung and Sony, their panels in the last few years have not been an option for me, as gaming is my 80 to 85% use case in my home theater. So that said, I feel it's a very huge lost opportunity for those companies. However, it's also a lost opportunity for us, as we can only choose from a couple different manufacturers. Each manufacturer has a signature. Sony has the signature that is unmistakable: accurate, Master Series, elegant, high-end. Samsung, beautiful colors, maybe not accurate colors, saturated. There's many different models. LG having more saturated, less natural. OLEDs, beautiful, different sizes. Samsung offers many different levels of LED. 8K. They're sold everywhere. LG now has, their OLEDs are affordable. And then we have Sony, who may have the best lineup they've had in many, many years, with the X95, the X90, the Z9K, the A95K, smaller A90K OLEDs. Their lineup is stacked. With gaming perhaps not being the priority, that is a huge chunk of business that you're missing. Most importantly, those that love those manufacturers are being dissuaded by us due to their use case. It's very hard to recommend a company that doesn't make gaming a priority, simply because it makes them niche, where back in the day, gaming was the niche group. Even as far back as 2017, I had a KS9800 78-inch full array local dimming LED from Samsung. It was their masterpiece, one of the best LEDs I have ever seen. It was their first full array LED. It was absolutely gorgeous. It was curved, which sounds ridiculous, but at 78 inches, it did immerse you. Its gaming was atrocious. There was blue lines everywhere, only in game mode. When I called Samsung, this TV was over $10,000, called them and mentioned that it was only in gaming, the response from them was, well, why would you game on that? Think about that for a moment. Why would you game on that? Yes, we have a game mode, but that's not really what that panel is for. And that was echoed to me through the years. Echoed to me that, well, you're really gaming on these things? This TV costs X amount. This TV is this. Why would you really game on that? Now, as we've gone along, they are turning into one. You have soundbars now versus... So just think about this. If you look at the AV community, separates, receivers, surround sound, TVs, projectors, processors, subwoofers, in the ceiling, all over the place, large screen, you're back on the couch. Picture your PC gamer back in the day. Desk, headphones, small speakers, clean image. That group tended to not want to play on a panel. Input lag was way too high. 60 milliseconds. Many of us that gamed on plasmas, even though there was a game mode, if you go back to the plasmas I gamed on, it's like 70 millisecond input lag. It's only in the last few years, well, Samsung was ahead of that, but it was only in the last few years where input lag was brought down. Unfortunately, especially in regards to LED, image quality was brought down with it. Now for me, the last TV, the Sony 950H panel that I tested and recommended, had a gorgeous game mode. HDMI 2.1 was not common yet. The consoles were not out yet, and the picture quality was all set. Why is all this a problem? Well, on that panel, it was HDMI 2.0. It did 4K 60 on PC, no problems. The challenge that we're having is these consoles are using HDMI 2.1 and variable refresh rate in ways that we did not think they would. They're unlocking frame rates. They're using a 120 FPS game mode to give us 40 FPS. Now, why is that important? Well, it's important because you would need to enable VRR for some of these features, thus disabling the local dimming on said display, thus destroying its picture quality. This year, Sony has the X95K. It is the best LED I have seen in years. The backlight master drive is back. The Z9K is a display that I want more than any other. 8K, 85 inches, backlight master drive. It's going to be an absolute monster. The challenge is recommending that to those that game is going to be difficult. As local dimming gets disabled, so in my opinion, does the picture quality. Now back to that PC group that's worried about speed and latency, they may still favor a monitor. But as that group has gotten older, they have homes, they're sitting in their living room, the TVs are larger. And now that they've come together and they have a lot of these features, they're now looking towards LG. They're looking towards Samsung because what they're getting is they're getting the picture quality in regards to movies. You can calibrate them down or change the settings to make them more accurate. But the gaming features, the game optimizers that are giving you basically benchmark tools that you would have to use on a separate app on your PC group. The benchmarking that we would have in the corners from Steam and you know, all these different tests that we would use are now built into these TVs. Not to mention all the presets that we discussed. What I would suggest from a company like Sony, and I do hope they are listening, is another preset, a Cinema Pro mode, one that favors the visuals, one that leaves some of the processing. To me, gaming outside of the game mode, standard, it may look good, seeing the motion and the very slow panning, it is really not playable. Some will add clear or add motion settings and they prefer that, nothing wrong with that. What I'm saying is to stay within a game preset that is separate. Again, Cinema Pro, something that allows local dimming on the LEDs that I so badly want to purchase, the ones I've been waiting for. Even with Samsung and Sony, do a separate preset that lets you enjoy the visuals, the color gamut, local dimming still being there. Now, for those of you that aren't sure what local dimming is, really the blacks. It's really the fact that it's so important in gaming more than anything, as you have the HUDs on screen, your life bar, your ammo. Those will glow without local dimming. When you're playing a single player campaign, when you're going into a dark cave, that will all be purple. Now, if you're gaming on a monitor, that might not be as intrusive. It might not drive you nuts. It's a smaller screen. It's a tighter pixel density. It's so clean. Now, what I mentioned before earlier about 120 FPS and the console group and PC group coming back together. For many of us in console, we've always wanted 60 FPS, but we were without 1080p. While we were getting 1080p on console, which didn't happen with the Xbox One or even the PS4, we had 900p or we had 1080p without anti-aliasing. PC gamers had 1080p at 120 already, then at 240 and 1440p, then 4K. We just wanted 4K. Now, these consoles are underpowered. They are. They are not as powerful as we had hoped, but what they are doing is being very creative. Again, using HDMI 2.1 and variable refresh rate in tandem. We've seen that with the PS5, where many of their titles, Spider-Man, Dirt 5, Ratchet and Clank, they look night and day due to the extra frames. PC Group told you back in the day, that doesn't matter to me. The frames per second wasn't just speed. It wasn't just motion. The added frames created more fluid animation. We on the console side, well, I'm on both sides, but began to understand that, meaning both camps want more. Your PC group wants a larger panel, better contrast ratio with either VA or OLEDs. The console group wants more frames while continuing to get the best image quality. Do you see where I'm going with this? PC a few years ago, HDR was not a concern. It was basically broken. You had to jump out into Windows, enable it, restart. I did several videos on this. Now we're past that. We're all into HDR. Most titles are HDR. What we need from the manufacturers, and where this is a plea, is please make it easy for me to recommend you. As I mentioned, the written review is there for you to read. The video reviews, they're separate. Those of us that live stream, we have these discussions. Me and 4 or 5 other guys are talking about this weekly and in depth. So when you say to me, hey, what's up, man? What do I love your stuff, blah, blah, blah. I want this TV. My first question, what are you using it for? Think about this with OLEDs. It used to be, are you using them for sports? They were a no-go because of burn-in, things of that nature. Well, we're past that now. Burn-in is not as much an issue or a fear. We still say to them, do you watch hockey? The panels do still dim on hockey. It's not pure white. We see less of that with the quantum dot OLEDs or the brighter OLEDs. So OLEDs are getting past that. So we're good with that. But with gaming, casual or hardcore, for me, the casual person favors picture quality. They're sitting back, they game when they can. They're buying home theaters. Sound bars are much better. Again, home theater group getting closer to what PC groups were. A true home theater enthusiast would never dream of having a soundbar or having little speakers. PC group had headphones. Now that whole group is together. You have home theater enthusiasts with these Sonos soundbars, with these Atmos soundbars. They are much better than they were. Again, together. Gaming for me, multiplayer, yes, is about speed. It's about accuracy. However, I would trade some of that input lag to enjoy the specular highlights as I'm running through and I'm shooting and there's sparks flying everywhere and flames. I love that stuff. I live for that. I am an artist. To me, gaming was a way to get lost in an environment. All gaming was to play a movie. Multiplayer gaming was a sport. Campaign gaming was to play a movie. Choose your adventure. Go into your environment. Seeing all that washed out, when you watch Twitch streamers, really large Twitch channels, you can see how clean the visuals are on their monitors. However, typically their contrast ratio is not great. They need the speed. So you have that option on displays now. You have low latency gaming. You have them so low now. It would love or be great to have just one more option from some of our favorite companies that I want to recommend just for now as a quick fix. One more preset. Pro, Cinema. Cinema Pro, Game Max, whatever. Just that way I can switch over. So the game optimizers allow us to increase the brights and the blacks so you can see better. I use it the opposite. I go lower to bring out a more contrast image. Games now, as much as the visuals are great, you want to be able to tweak the image. A lot of the HDR implementation is still not great by the creator. So, in short, in this long video, I am pleading. I do want to be able to recommend each company. I have a lot of people now say, I don't love Samsung, I don't love LG, but I guess because I game, I'll go here. Can you game on the others? Of course you can. However, when they change the picture quality on our favorite LEDs, that is the challenge. It's almost impossible to recommend if their picture quality goes away, especially at the size that these panels are now. Wasn't as noticeable at 50 inches or 52 inches or 55 inches. Very noticeable on 65 inches. Maybe not as noticeable back in the day before we had HDR. Now extremely noticeable at 75, 85, 77, and 83. This is all that I'm discussing. In your opinion, what is a casual gamer? What is a hardcore gamer? The last few years have actually brought us back to TVs. People that are now in their early 20s, late teens, late 20s. A lot of them in college watch movies on their laptops, their iPads. They were used to watching. Now, we all watch on our phones, but that particular group, friends, people that I knew, my family, a lot of them had no problem watching a big budget film with some good headphones and a screen from a laptop. The image was crystal clear, very small, but they were happy. So us home theater enthusiasts were kind of falling away. The gaming group was still there, focused, handhelds. Now that TVs are kind of back in after what's happened the last few years, TVs are more sought after. They're selling better than they have in many years. Same with surround sound and receivers and everything else. That's when we need the focus from these companies to put gaming high among the priority. Now that's hard to do. The engineers, the executives most likely still look at gaming as being a bit of a childish thing. Hey, we're cinema. Our lineup will have this TV. This is for the gamers. I think that's a mistake. 8K should cater to gamers. 4K cater to gamers. This is why. It is the only piece of content, the only piece of art that is true 4K, that you can make true 8K if you have the GPU. Everything else is a 2K DI. Everything else is compressed. Everything else is streamed. Gaming is really, other than a few 4K Blu-rays, not few, but there are, but you can actually get the full resolution. You can actually see 4K for the first time. 4K panels have been out forever. Many people still watch cable, 720p, 1080i. Gamers have enjoyed 4K. But here's the thing. With consoles, until this generation, they haven't seen 4K either. The Pro and the Xbox One X gave you some of that. The PS5 and the Xbox Series X have promised you 4K 60, maybe even 8K. They have not delivered that. They really struggle to do 4K 30 without a dynamic resolution, without a lot of tricks. And therein lies the issue. Engineers look at the panel and say, look, it's HDMI 2.0. It can give you 60 FPS. You're good. And that's what we've said over the years. HDMI 2.0, as I mentioned before, is being used differently. You're having games, another problem with technology, being updated 3-4 months later. I'm playing Dying Light. I stalled on it. The game runs 1,000,000 times better than it did at launch. There's more options. The game looks much better. To the point where if I went back to a 2.0, HDMI 2.0, and a panel without VRR, I couldn't use it. But now if you give me a panel and then disable local dimming, or even with some of the OLEDs that do play well now with VRR, their game modes are bare bones. Even though they are OLEDs, the flexibility of settings isn't there. They still take away a lot of the processing. For OLEDs, you still need to have the ability to disable some of the burn-in features. I know that sounds counterintuitive. Logo luminance, things like that, that you can disable to keep ABL or ABSL from happening. Let us do that. Give us the controls to control the dimming of these panels. Your gaming community is larger than ever, more sophisticated than ever. They need to be catered to. They need to be listened to. And for me and those that I collaborate with and the entire AV TV group that you see me live stream, you know who they are. This comes up in every discussion. And in the last number of years, now more than ever, we're in touch more than ever. We share our thoughts more than ever. The conversations are not. That's why these are unscripted. That's why these videos are very long. I want you to hear the discussion, then have the discussion. That's why it's not scripted. That's why the idea is there. Yes, it's long. It doesn't cater to everyone. But these are the conversations we need to have. Specs, picture quality, that's a very finite and done. Game on it? Yeah, you can. I want to go into detail. Is the local dimming intact? But give us the choice. Leave local dimming alone. Add a preset. make input lag a little bit higher. Doesn't have to be the quickest. Then have a separate mode if you want the lowest, stripped down. Vizio, many years ago, well, they still have it, and we will do a video on Vizio soon, is their fifth input on their HDMI was always a stripped down, very fast input lag mode. Didn't have HDR. HDR is another part of this, VRR and HDR, but it would go on even farther. That was a great idea. You want to put your PC on that, click, rock that. You want something fast, rock that. That was a good idea. You can do that. We need more than two HDMI 2.1s. We can't just have one be an eARC. There are so many. This is a C1 at 83 inches. HDMI 1 through 4. PC, Series X, PS5, receiver. I don't want any consoles going through the receiver, even though it's an HDMI 2.1 receiver. I don't want anything else doing the processing other than the panel and the consoles and or PC. Again, more sophisticated. We need more. And I don't mean more sophisticated as in more intelligent, but more flexible. More needs. You're not just throwing a PC guy in the corner and having a person game at 30 FPS on a console. We're all together. You have more console people buying pre-made PCs. You have PC people playing on TVs. You have 42-inch OLEDs, 48-inch OLEDs. Who are those for? They're more expensive in some cases than their 55-inch counterpart. That's for your PC group. And what's ironic for our LED, and I'll end with this, LED was always the safe way to game. No burn-in, no problems, leave it on all day. OLEDs are now the preferred gaming monitors. Well, not monitors, but panels for many of us. I game on this at 83 inches. I'm 5 feet from it. I cannot game on a projector, not even a gaming projector. Too much latency, don't love the image. TVs offer both. They offer the clean image, HDR, contrast ratio, and now speed and features. That's all in OLED. Burn-in is less of a fear. There are safeguards. There are ways to just play different content, to switch it up. I've had many OLEDs in the last few years. I've gamed pretty hard on them with no issues, as well as many of you in the comments and in the community. Let me know what you think about this video. Let me know what you think about companies making it a priority. What companies do you want to see be stronger in this? For me, Samsung has taken the initiative, but until QD OLED, I recommend their panels every day, but I still wouldn't have one. As I saw what it did when the local living disappeared. But at least in regards to Samsung, you can still drop the black level. You can still make the image a bit darker to compensate. It does give you the tools. But now with QD OLED, with the S95, you have the best of both worlds, which is why they jumped over LG in gaming. But it's not a tried and true panel yet. We'll see how it shakes out. Thus putting G series, LG, the G2, G1, C2, C1 back in the lead as far as tried and true and durable. Heatsinks, the smaller C2, having the gaming features, hard to recommend a smaller panel from another manufacturer that has none of that and costs more. The QD OLEDs from Sony, those are going to be great for gaming. They have Dolby Vision. Now, Dolby Vision gaming, not really useful right now. Great to have that option. But having the other presets, having the flexibility to have Dolby Vision gaming, having the flexibility to have a low latency version. In Samsung and in LG, you can enable low latency. You can enable FPS boost. It doesn't even cripple the image quality. In some ways, you can't tell. Other than some flickering in the main menu, it looks beautiful. That's what we want. That's what we need. Tell me what you think. Very long video. Are you a casual gamer? Are you a hardcore gamer? Are they one and the same? Let me know what you think. We have many more discussion videos like this. I'm also going to follow this video up with inviting other YouTubers that are gamers and what they think a casual gamer is. Again, more sophisticated. Home theater, all of it has become one. And gaming, in my opinion, should be right up there with the highest priority from all of these manufacturers. And then that way, when I'm recommending them, I'm not just saying, oh yeah, Samsung for gaming, LG for gaming. I want to be able to do all of that. That includes TCL, Hisense, Vizio, Sony, all of the other manufacturers. Please take gaming and make gaming a priority, because I promise you, from me and those that I collaborate with, you're losing out on so much business, and they are losing out on the processing and the picture quality of those other manufacturers. They don't want to choose someone else, but they are. Thank you so much for joining me. I will see you in the comments. Love you guys.